Hi friends, this is Kathy with Dear Kathryn. I design custom wedding invitations with a focus on telling the client's love story through watercolor, calligraphy, all that fun stuff. So as you can see, this is my website. I just wanted to introduce myself really quick, but you can see that I use a lot of Juliana Mary's stock images in my work and to present my client's stationery. And I do that for several different reasons, but the main one is because I am terrible at styling my own work and I'm terrible at photography. So anything I can do to show the client how it would look in real life, I'm going to do. So that's where you'll see a lot of Juliana Mary's stock images on my website. This is how I also present them in client proofs, and clients just get a really good idea of how it's going to look without having to print that physical proof. So what I'm going to show you today are several different techniques that I use to mock up not only your invitations and other insert cards, but I'm also going to tell you how to change the envelope colors and add envelope liners. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is head over to Juliana Mary's website and go to the Styled Stock Shop and just browse through all of her collections. As you can see, she offers not only like the light, bright, and airy look, but she's also got some darker backgrounds for a bit of a moody feel to your mock-ups. And I mean, really, she's got anything for anybody. I mean, the tropical style. She's got kind of like a Christmassy. Oh my goodness, they're all so good. So no matter what your brand looks like, she's probably got something that's going to fit there. And I just saw this one, which I might have to purchase. I probably already have 6 or 7 different of her collections, and I mean, I always come back and look for more because she always has different layouts and different florals that she uses, and her styling is just impeccable. So go take a look at all of her collections, and then once you do that and make your purchase, head back over here, and I'm going to go over how I add invitations and other insert cards into the mock-ups themselves. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is pull our photo into Photoshop so we can start working with it. So what I like to do is open up the file in my Finder and then click and drag the photo into Photoshop to open it. The next step is super important. You want to save this as something else, because if you save over your original photo, it's just going to be a huge pain later on. I've done it several times and I have to re-download the photos, and it's just my fault and I just get mad at myself. So save it as something else in the folder where you want it, and then you won't have to go through the headache of re-downloading everything. Okay, so to get your invitation into the photo, we're going to go to File and we're going to place Linked. And the reason I like to place a linked file is because when you make changes in Illustrator to your invitation, like if you go through several rounds of proofs, you don't want to also come back and have to make changes in Photoshop. So placing a linked file allows you to make changes in Illustrator, and then it automatically updates here in Photoshop. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to place our linked file, and we are actually going to find, I had this open before, but let's do this. We're going to place this beautiful Italian villa wedding invitation into our document. So when this box opens, open a smart object, it's going to show you several different windows depending on how many artboards you have in your Illustrator document. So these right here are my 2 artboards. This is the front of my invitation and this is the back of my invitation. I'm going to select the front, and over in this Crop To drop down menu, I'm going to go to Trim Box. And this is important because I don't want to add the bleed that I have in my Illustrator document. So this is just going to place where it's going to be trimmed. All right, then what we're going to do is resize our card. So I usually do one side and then the other without holding the shift key on my keyboard. And then I kind of get it to the size that I want it. As you can see, let's do a little bit smaller on this side, but it's roughly the size of that card. So then I'm going to use my keyboard arrows or my mouse, whichever you're comfortable with, but I'm going to put that in place. So I'm going to hold the shift key and move it down just a little bit and get it to where it needs to be. And if you zoom in, sometimes they need to be rotated just a tad, but usually, I mean, she's really good at straightening everything before she takes the photo, so sometimes you don't have to do that. So you're just going to press return or enter to place that in there and zoom back out. And it does look good right now, but for things that have like a full bleed of color, or a full wash of color, or a flood of color, it can kind of look like it's sitting on top of the paper rather than being in the photo itself. So what I like to do is come over here to my layers panel, and in this drop down blend mode menu, I go down to multiply. Okay, so that just kind of brings the paper through your invitation file, and sorry it's getting blurry, but you'll be able to see more of this paper texture through your actual design, and that makes it just look a little bit more natural. Okay, so because I want you to see what that multiply blend mode really does, I'm going to place the back of my invitation in here so you can see the difference. So I'm going to hide that layer. I'm going to place linked. Here are my two artboards again. I'm going to select the second artboard, which is my backer. And because my files are fairly large, it can kind of take a minute sometimes. And then I'm going to resize it. Same steps as last time, just with a different card. All right, for the purposes of time, let's just ignore the blank line over here. Okay, that's better. All right, so I mean, this looks great, but let's see what happens when we do multiply. This is multiply, this is normal. It kind of pulls in the shadows that are available within the photo and makes it look like a part of the photo itself. Again, multiply, normal. And that's just a quick little trick to make it look a little bit more realistic. All right, here is a full suite that I've done, and all I did for the rest of the cards is the exact same thing that we did for the invitation card over here. And for things like addresses, you just want to resize them to what you think they would look like in person, and make sure you hit that multiply. Let's see what it would look like normal. See, I have a white box in that file, so if I were to just place it as a normal blend mode, you would see that white box, but multiply makes that go away. So just a fun trick that you should remember. It's very helpful with all sorts of things. And let's see, as you can see, I've added an envelope liner to this design. I am going to go over how I do that, but for right now, let's just hold off and come over here to your layers panel, and you'll see over here that there are a couple warning symbols, and that just means that I have modified the content in Illustrator, but it hasn't updated in Photoshop yet. So that could be just because your computer's being slow, or because I've closed out of the Photoshop dock before I made the changes to Illustrator, and when I open it back up, it just doesn't know that it needs to update. I hope that makes sense. But in order to update it, let's right click on the layer that has the warning symbol, one of them, pick one, it doesn't matter. You're going to right click on it, scroll until you see update all modified content. You'll see that this moved up a little bit, and that's no big deal. You just go to that layer and just use your down arrow keys and place it where you want it. Sometimes it does that, sometimes it doesn't. You can see that the invitation didn't move, but the address did. I don't know why it does that sometimes, but it's no big deal to move it back. So moving on, the next thing I'm going to show you how to do is putting a liner into your envelope.